When you think of the numbers related to bar mitzvah, the first one you come across is 13. That's easy. Another one is 613, the number of mitzvahs you become responsible for at bar mitzvah. Another one, 1,580, the number of times you go back to memorize the words Lechter and Farge Gressengoas. But the number unique to this bar mitzvah, my bar mitzvah, is 53. Because that number is the difference between the temperature in Minnesota today and the one here. Minnesota, 34. Here, 87. Enough said. When I started studying for bar mitzvah, I was living in St. Paul, Minnesota, a student at Lubavitch Cheder. Now I'm celebrating my bar mitzvah in Coral Springs, Florida, a student in Lubavitch Hebrew Academy.
Yeah!
I went from a house that had a pool in the basement every spring when the snow melted, to a house with no basement, no snow, and a pool in the backyard all year round. I went from worrying about the wind chill to worrying about the humidity, from tornado watches to hurricane watches, from the land of 10,000 lakes and 2 artificial kosher restaurants, to the land of 10,000 kosher restaurants and a few artificial lakes. All this movement right around my bar mitzvah. How predictable that my parsha would be Lech Lecha. Just as Avram is getting comfortable in Haran, having made inroad and influencing the locals, making a change and creating a community of Hasidic Gayim who believe in Hashem and consider themselves Avram's Hasidim, Hashem tells him, all right, time to go. So off he goes to Eretz Canaan, the land where Hashem directs him to go. And wouldn't you know it, just as he's settling in, things change and Hashem tells him, all right, time to go. So down to Mitzrayim he goes, pulls off a few awesome miracles, and just as he strikes it rich and becomes a local celebrity, Hashem tells him, all right, time to go. Seems like there might be a bit of a pattern here. As soon as you're comfortable, you gotta hit the road. And isn't this how we ended up here in the first place? By here I mean Earth, not just Coral Springs. We were pure neshamas, sunning and basking in the glow of the Shekhinah around the Kisei Kavod, with not a care in the world. And one by one Hashem called us over to his desk and said, all right, time to go. So down we went, from pure neshamas to sweet little babies, basking in the glow of living at home with our every need taken care of. Waited on hand and foot, outfits changed, meals served, and naps provided on demand. And just as we're getting super comfortable living it up at home, the parents throw us out, drop us off at school with a friendly, all right, time to go. So off we go to school, and somewhere around 7th grade, just as you're becoming the king of the hills and getting comfortable in school and prepping serenely for your bar mitzvah, Hashem comes along and says, all right, time to go. Move to Coral Springs. Why all the moving around? Why doesn't Hashem let us settle down for the night at least? Why does he get us up and moving as soon as we find our groove? And by the way, enjoy 7th and 8th grade while they last, because any day now, we're getting hustled out of LHA and into Masifta. So why all the relocation? From Orkasim to Haran to Canaan to Mitzrayim, back to Canaan. From Gan Eden to Minnesota to Coral Springs. Or to wherever your journey might have taken you and might yet take you. I guess my question is, what in the world am I doing living in Florida? How did this happen and why? I mean, the weather is not bad and the pool is nothing to complain about, and the school is good and the friends are great and the restaurants aren't bad and the cousins are awesome and the basketball league is going to be cool, but that can't be it. The answer, of course, is the answer to every question, ever, anywhere. Dira b'tachteinim. I thought I knew the depth of that truth until I heard that they asked Rabbi Yael Kahn if he had any explanation for the crazy new virus that was sweeping the world, COVID. Rabbi Yael said he wasn't sure exactly, but one thing is for sure. It's a new level in the journey toward Dira b'tachteinim, because that's the answer to everything. Hashem put us here on earth to make a dira out of it, to prove the truth of Hashem's words, when he declared that the word was Taiv Ma'ait. The truth doesn't change regardless of where you live. The answer to why you live, where you live, is Dira b'tachteinim. As we move from place to place, from Gan Eden to Olam Hazeh, from Haran to Canaan to Mitzrayim, to Minnesota to Coral Springs, the Tachteinim are changing, but the dira you're supposed to be making does not. The tools of the trade remain the same. Birchas HaShachar, Iskafia, Ishapcha, Tefillin, Bechen Tigadlos, Avas Yisrael, davening with the Nigun, Chitas, Rambam, V'tzayin, Shlichos, and doing everything energetically and joyfully. But when you overcome the resistance of one place, Hashem moves you along to a new challenge, a new frontier that needs to be conquered. Apparently, our Minnesota Shlichus was achieved, and a still greater one awaits. Florida, the Sunshine State, a tachtanim to the south of Minnesota's, awaits our contribution as is transformed magnificently into a Hasidic landscape, a place of shlichus and yiras shamayim, a true marvelous era. So with the number 53 on my mind and my boots, gloves, and earmuffs safely stored away in some box somewhere, I begin my life as a man, not as a veteran member of the Frozen Chosen, but as a brand new member of the Tropical Tribe. Wish me luck. My parents gave me the name of my great-grandfather,
Good luck. Good luck.
known in our family as Zadie Gordon. I have more in common with him than just my name, especially now he made people laugh, and sometimes I do too. He was a serious man too, and sometimes scared my father. And sometimes I scare my father too. Like the time He thought my Zadie Freeman was very wise, and so do I. And he was not a fan of the Yankees, and neither am I. True, he didn't care about baseball at all, but still he was not a Yankees fan. And he grew up in a small town and moved to the big city. And now, so did I. Zadie Gordon grew up in a shtetl so small that when he was a kid, he and his friends sincerely believed that the world ended at the forest that surrounded the town. When one of his friends reported that his father had traveled beyond the forest to a different city, they laughed him off, saying his father must have gone and parked himself in a forest for a day and then returned, claiming to have traveled far to impress people. But obviously that's impossible. That's how small the town was. Yiras Shamayim was natural there. It was in the air they breathed. And like me, his bar mitzvah was surrounded by movement, as his father was in New York making arrangements to bring the family over. And my Zadie had his bar mitzvah without his father. As he used to say, I'm a self-made man. And this boy who grew up with Torah and mitzvahs wherever he looked ended up as a bachur in New York, where Goyim on the subway tried to light bachurim's beards on fire, and fellow Jews yelled at him for being old-fashioned and backwards. Yet he survived the transition, and brilliantly he became the rav of a shul where the board was not so frum. And he once chided the president of the board for keeping his theater business open on Shabbos, which of course got him fired immediately. This boy, who didn't see a theater or know what a theater was until he was in his teens, was not swept up in the American tidal wave of assimilation and proudly encouraged people to go back to the old ways of keeping Shabbos and being humble before Hashem. So I take my cue from him. The move from small-town Minnesota to the big city Florida is not that different from my Zadie's move. And I'm not that different from my Zadie, the Golden Medina, the Golden State, the Sunshine State. The challenges are similar, and the opportunity to be a hero to your grandchildren are the same. So now I know my mission. I'm confident in its success, and Zadie Gordon is my secret sauce. Thank you to my parents, Mommy and Tati. Zadie, Bubby, who couldn't make it, I wish you were here. Bubby Kagan, who was with me at my bar mitzvah in New York. My brothers and sisters. My aunts from out of town, my uncle and aunt who live here, and my cousins, the relatives who drove up, down, or across to be here, my teachers, and everyone who came. Thank you very, very much, and mazel tov.